Here's what nobody tells you about learning n8n. You don't need to learn every single node. These 18 nodes right here power 90% of the $5,000 to $10,000 automation systems that I built. And in this video, I'm showing you exactly which 18 nodes these are, how to use them, and more importantly, which ones are actually worth your time. Let's start with triggers. Triggers are how any workflow starts. Every automation will start with a trigger. The two most basic triggers that you'll use for testing are the built-in chat trigger, which is just an n8n chat interface built into the canvas, or a manual trigger, which you can run by clicking this orange button over here. Number 3 is the schedule trigger. Now, the schedule trigger is really powerful because you can use this to run your workflow at set intervals. You can set it for seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, or even months. The next trigger is a webhook, and this is really one of the most powerful triggers built into n8n. Webhooks are like addresses for your workflow. If you have an external application or a website and you want that service to be able to send data to your workflow, you can do it through a webhook. And then once that data comes into your workflow, you can manipulate it however you want. So these are the basic built-in triggers. And of course, n8n also has a lot of app-based triggers as well. And one example is the Google Sheets trigger. So for example, every time a row is added to a Google Sheet, that can trigger the workflow, and whatever information you've added to the row comes into n8n, and then you can use that information to do whatever you have to do. So that covers triggers. Next up, we have AI integration, which is the intelligence layer. And this turns basic automation into premium AI systems. So let's go ahead and bring that chat trigger down here to be able to run the AI nodes. So the 3 AI nodes that we're going to cover are the LLM chains, the AI agent, and other native AI nodes. An LLM chain is an AI node that can fit in between a workflow. It's very useful when you have some data coming in from some other processing and you want to use AI to manipulate that data in some way and then have it continue down the workflow into the next step. To LLM chains, you can attach something called a structured output parser. So open up the LLM chain node and make sure the require specific output format toggle is on. That will open up another plus icon over here under output parser. And to that, you can connect the structured output parser. And here you can actually define the exact output you want from the AI. So in this example, I have an email extractor where I'm going to paste in the contents of an email, and I want the AI to extract all of the key points from that email into individual data points that I could then hypothetically load into a CRM. So I'm going to open up the chat, paste in this email. So here's an email which has some information from a fictitious employee about a fictitious client. I'm going to hit enter. So it's going to talk to Anthropic using OpenRouter. And if I show you the result, you'll see that the output contains all of the basic information from that email. But instead of being just a block of text, it's now individual variables that I can then use in my workflow. So if I wanted to update a spreadsheet or update a CRM, I could do it really, really easily. So that's the power of the LLM chain. Next up, we have AI agents. AI agents use language models, but they also have access to tools, which means they can actually change and manipulate data. So if I ask it to complete the spreadsheet, it's actually going to first get the information from the sheet, search Wikipedia for all the missing pieces, and then if you open up the sheet, it's going to fill all of this information out from what it found. So we have population numbers, and we also have the weather. So we have all of this information filled out. So we had all it took was a single command for it to execute all of these different tasks. And that is the power of AI agents. Now, the third type of AI node that's really useful is the actual AI functions that are built into OpenAI and Gemini. So if we open up this node, we'll see that we have so many different things that we can do. So we can play with images, we can play with audio, we can play with files, we can play with video. So let's say we have this video and we want to generate a video. So we just have to use this node, and this node will automatically generate a video as its output. So you don't need to fiddle around with any complicated API calls or anything. And if you dig through the various AI nodes that are available, you'll see that we have Anthropic nodes, we have different nodes for Gemini, and we also have different nodes for OpenAI as well. And you can do all of these different things within n8n. So those are the AI nodes. Next up, we have connecting n8n to external apps. So in order to connect n8n to external apps, the most powerful node that you're going to use is the HTTP request. So you can use the HTTP request node to talk to any API on the internet. n8n actually has this really neat import CURL command where you can go to any API documentation, paste in the entire CURL bubble, and it's automatically going to fill in all the details for you. So for this test, I have a very simple API, which is just going to pull random quotes off of the internet. If we click execute, it's going to talk to that API and come back with some data. n8n also has integrations with a lot of different apps built in, and you can click the plus icon, go to action in an app, and you have access to all of these different web applications that directly hook up to n8n without needing HTTP requests. So for example, if you use Go High Level, you can integrate Go High Level and you have all these different data points in Go High Level that you can access and all these different operations that you can do to those data points. And once you start connecting external apps to your workflows, that's when they start getting really, really powerful, because most businesses use a lot of different tools, and n8n gives you that capability of bringing all of those tools onto literally a single page and connecting all of that data together into a meaningful workflow. And that brings us to data manipulation. Now, since you have a lot of data, there will be times when you build your workflow that you need to manipulate the data and change it. So the edit fields node lets you take data and save it into different variables. You can also use the edit fields node to clean up data using JavaScript expressions. And if this scares you, don't worry, you can use ChatGPT or Claude to actually write these expressions for you. So for example, we have this node which contains messy data, right? So the first name is all lowercase, the last name is all uppercase. The email is all uppercase and has a lot of spaces in it. So we could just use a edit fields node with these JavaScript expressions to modify those variables to what we need them to be. So if we click execute, we'll see that we now have the full name cleaned up, the email cleaned up, and we also have a timestamp. Now, in some cases, you'll have what's called an array. So an array this is a list, and inside this list, you have object 1, object 2, and object 3. So these are 3 separate objects, but effectively they're contained within one list. Let's say you wanted to work with these 3 objects individually. To do that, you would use the split out node. So if you open this up and hit execute, it's actually going to split out these 3 into 3 separate items. And we can see that in the table. So we have item 1, item 2, and item 3. And if we see here, we started with 1 item and then we split that out, and we now have 3 items that we can work with individually. You can also chain multiple data manipulation nodes together. So let's say we have a list of products that look like this. We have the product and the price. But now we need to work with these individually to add 10% tax on everything. So we can use the split out node. If we hit execute, we'll see that we turn that one list into 3 separate items, and then we wanted to add the tax. So we can do that either using a code node, but since this is a very simple calculation, we can just use a edit fields node. So if I hit execute, it's going to reprice everything. And since we started out with an array, which is 1 item, and we have 3 items here, we can use the aggregate node to turn those 3 items back into a single list as we started. So these are the basic data manipulation nodes. Moving on, when you're working with data, you're going to need some place to store the data and retrieve it. So my favorite nodes for storing and retrieving data are Airtable, Google Sheets, n8n's built-in data tables, or for more enterprise level solutions, you can use Supabase as well. And finally, we have advanced nodes. One of the most powerful things about n8n is that you can use the built-in code node and actually run JavaScript or Python within n8n to do something with the data that you're working with. So let's say you needed to do a complex calculation, or you needed to trim some characters off, or you needed to find something from a very large list. While you could use AI to do it, that would use up AI credits and the cost would add up. So you could simply use some JavaScript code or some Python code to manipulate and clean up the data as you need it. And if you're not familiar with JavaScript or Python and you still want to use the code node, just open up ChatGPT or open up Claude or Gemini or whatever you use and just ask it to draft an n8n code node that does XYZ for you, and it's going to do it. And last but not least, we have the file nodes. So n8n lets you convert JSON data into a file and also lets you convert files into JSON data. So the example I have here is the convert to HTML, where you can dump in some kind of JSON, and that JSON can be turned into HTML and you'll end up with a .html file. You can also convert data into CSVs, JSON files, rich text files, and even Excel files. And this also works in reverse, where you can extract data from a specific file and output it as JSON that you can then send to an LLM or send to any kind of code node to manipulate further. So if you had a CSV, an HTML file, even a PDF file, you can extract all of that information and make it usable in your workflow. So while there are hundreds of nodes in n8n, these basic nodes are the building blocks for 90% of your automations. And if you can master these and get comfortable using these, you'll be ahead of 99% of all people that are trying to use n8n. And if you run an agency or service business and you want me in your corner helping you automate, I'm launching AI Incubator Pro. It's a small group and it's very hands-on. There's a link in the description if you're interested.